Once upon a time, in a peaceful village nestled between a rolling hills and blossoming meadows, there lived a loving couple, Mara and Elias. Their home was filled with warmth, laughter, and dreams of one day becoming parents. For years, they prayed for a child, hoping that the Creator would bless them with the family they had longed for. Mara was a kind-hearted woman with a gentle spirit and hands that always seemed to be busy. Whether it was tending to the garden or preparing meals for the neighbors, Elias, her devoted husband, was a strong man, wise and caring, whose love for his wife had never faltered. Together, they made a perfect pair, and the village loved them dearly. But there was one thing they both yearned for, a child of their own. They dreamed of cradling their baby in their arms, watching the little one grow and fill their home with laughter and joy. For years, they tried and hoped, but the joy of parenthood seemed always out of reach. Their journey began with visits to healers and doctors, seeking any help they could find. They tried traditional remedies, prayers at the ancient temple, and eventually turned to modern medicine. They underwent several rounds of IVFs, each time filled with hope, and each time their hopes were shattered. Then came surrogacy, the promise of a child growing inside another woman's womb. But after months of anticipation, tragedy struck. The baby, the little boy they had named Samuel, passed away shortly after birth. Mara and Elias were devastated. The grief they felt was like a storm that tore through their hearts, leaving them hollow and broken. But still, they didn't give up. Their hearts ached, yes, but the love for a child still burned brightly within them. They began looking into adoption, hoping that their dream might still be realized through a different path. Mara's quiet resolve was her strength. Even in the deepest moment of despair, she never gave up on the belief that there was a child meant to be in their arms. Elias too, though silently grieving, never once wavered in the support for Mara. Together, they sought out a local orphanage, a place filled with children waiting for the love of a family. One day, they were invited to meet a little girl named Lila, who had just turned 2. She had curly hair like dark chocolate, eyes that shimmered with the curiosity of the world, and a smile that could lit up the darkest days. But Lila was unlike the other children they had met. She was quiet, reserved, and seemed to carry an invisible burden that made her older than her years. The moment Mara and Elias met Lila, their hearts knew. It was as if the years of longing, loss, and searching had led them to this moment. But there was something about Lila that felt different. A quiet strength, a sense that she was more than just a child who needed a home. As they spent more time with her, they learned her story. Lila had been abandoned by her birth parents at a young age and had grown up in the orphanage, yearning for love but too scared to truly trust. Her eyes told a story of pain and loss, unlike Mara and Elias' heart, and it was clear that this little girl had known sorrow long before she had known love. But there was magic in the way she looked at them. Lila wasn't just a child they could love. She seemed to be the child the universe had sent to heal their broken heart. Her presence in their lives brought light, but it also brought challenges. The grief of the past still haunted them, and Lila's quiet walls made it hard for her to open up to the love they so desperately wanted to give. One night, as Mara sat by the window, gazing at the stars, she whispered a prayer. "O Maker of all things, grant me the strength to love this child as my own, to help her heal as I long to heal." And in that moment, as if the very stars were listening, Mara felt a shift in the air. It was subtle, but it was there. Something had changed. Perhaps it was the love that had been flowing between them, or perhaps it was the soul-deep connection that neither time nor pain could sever. After Mara and Elias adopted Lila, strange things began to happen around their home. At first, it was subtle, little things that they couldn't quite explain. The garden which Mara had always struggled to keep alive began to flourish. Flowers bloomed in vibrant colors, and the vegetables grew larger and healthier than ever before. Mara thought it was just the change of season, perhaps a new gardening technique she had discovered by accident. Lila's business also saw unexpected success. He received a promotion at work, and a large contract that he had been pursuing for months suddenly came through. The family's finances, which had once been a constant worry, were now more stable. The tension that had once hung over them was replaced by an ease they hadn't known for years. Elias was grateful, but he thought it was simple luck or perhaps his hard work finally paying off. But the blessings didn't stop there. They were more than just material. There was a deep sense of peace in the household. Mara felt more connected to her community, offering advice, prayer, and counsel to those in need. She didn't know why, but her words seemed to have a healing effect on people. The villagers came to her for support, and she could feel their gratitude and admiration, even if she couldn't explain why they turned to her so often. It wasn't just Elias and Mara who felt the changes. It was their entire home. The air seemed fresher, the light warmer, and even the smallest of their worries seemed to dissipate with each passing day. Yet, neither Mara nor Elias made the connection between these blessings and Lila. They assumed it was just a series of happy coincidences, a positive turn of events that came after adopting her. Meanwhile, Lila was blossoming in ways they didn't understand. She seemed to possess an unusual gift. Plants thrived wherever she went, and animals followed her with an almost reverent loyalty. When someone in the village fell ill, Lila would visit, her soft hands placed over their wounds or fevered brows, and within hours, they would recover. But Mara never put two and two together. She thought it was simply Lila's sweet nature, her innate goodness, that made things happen around her. Lila was unaware of the extent of her powers. She felt a deep inner warmth, as if something within her was awakening. But she didn't understand it fully. She knew she could heal. She hadn't yet grasped that she was the source of the transformation around her. The family prosperity, the healing, the peace, everything seemed to flow from her. But to Lila, it was just a part of who she was. One evening, Elder Solara visited Mara and Elias. The old seer had been away for several years, and her return felt significant. She had been watching over the family from a distance, keeping an eye on Lila's growth, and now she had come to deliver important news. Elder Solara had known all along what the family hadn't yet realized. Lila was a child of prophecy. She was the blessing of light, destined to bring healing and peace and restoration to the world. The moment she had entered their lives, the wave of blessings had followed. But Mara was still in the dark. "It is no accident, Mara." "Elias," Elder Solara said, "Lila is the bearer of the light, one chosen to heal and restore the land. She is the child of prophecy." Mara stared at the seer in confusion. But how? How could this be? Our daughter be the cause of all these changes? Elder Solara smiled gently, knowing the family hadn't yet made the connection. "It is her power, Mara. She is the source. The blessings you have received, the healing, the growth, it is because of her. Lila's heart is pure, and she is the key to the restoration of balance in this world." One morning, after a particularly peaceful night, Mara woke up to a strange feeling, one of profound calm and contentment. As the day passed, she realized something even more extraordinary. She was pregnant again. Elias was overjoyed, and the both prayed together, thanking the heavens for this miracle. The pregnancy was different from the others, but it felt right. Their dreams were now filled with vision of twins, a boy and a girl, both healthy and strong. Mara believed it was a sign, a blessing upon the family for the love and care they had shown Lila. In her heart, She knew this was a reward for the way she had nurtured the child of prophecy. She and Elias were overjoyed. After years of longing, they were finally going to have the family they always dreamed of. After the birth of the twins, Mara's heart was overflowing with joy. But as the days passed, the weight of caring for two newborns began to pull her in different directions. She had always longed for children, and now that her dream had come true, the reality of motherhood, of sleepless nights, endless feedings, and the constant demands of babies began to take its toll on her. In the chaos of caring for the twin, Mara began to forget. She forgot that the little girl who had been the source of their blessing, the one who had healed their heart, their home, and their life, Lila, who had once been the center of Mara's world, was now pushed to the periphery, and needs overlooked, and presence slowly fading from Mara's focus. At first, Lila tried to be understanding. She had always been a quiet child, gentle and loving. She didn't demand much, just a smile from her mother, a warm embrace, and a few minutes of attention. But as the days wore on, those moments grew shorter and shorter. Mara's once gentle and nurturing touch now seemed hurried and absent, as though she was simply going through the emotions of motherhood without truly being present. Lila had always been intuitive. She could feel the shift in her mother's heart, the coldness that began to grow where they had once been warm. At first, she didn't understand it. She would come to Mara with a drawing, a sweet gesture, hoping to make her smile. But Mara would look at her briefly and return to the twin, dismissing her without a word. Lila's heart ached, but she still clung to the hopes that things would go back to normal. Maybe Mara was just tired. Maybe she would come back to her, as she had before. But the days passed, and the neglect deepened. Mara would give her attention to the twin, a new son and daughter who were so perfect, so beautiful, and Lila would watch from the sideline. She would stand in the doorway of their room, watching as her mother cawed over the babies, her eyes filled with joy and adoration, while Lila felt a deep ache in her chest. She would quietly leave, walking slowly through the halls of the house, her small feet making no sound on the wooden floor. But no one noticed. No one saw the little girl who once brought so much light into their homes. Her once bright smile began to fade, her face pale, her eyes dimmed with the weight of the loneliness, and was now her constant companion. Lila had given them everything, her hearts, her healing touch, her light, her love, and in return she received nothing but a cold shoulder. She didn't complain. She didn't ask for more. She had learned to be quiet, to be invincible, to retreat into herself when the sting of rejection grew too much. But there are moments when a pain felt so much to bear that she would lie awake in the darkness of her room, crying softly, a small chest, even with the weight of a sorrow she couldn't fully comprehend. Lila's pain wasn't always obvious. It wasn't that kind of pain that could be seen on the surface. No, it was much deeper than that. It was the pain of being unnoticed, of being invisible in a home that was supposed to be her sanctuary. It was the hurt that came from never being acknowledged, never being loved in the way she needed. There were days when Lila would sit at the table watching as Mara fed the twin, her hands trembling with hunger for attention. She would sit quietly, hoping that just once her mother would turn to her and say, "I see you, my dear. I love you." But that never came. Instead, Mara's attention was always elsewhere, always on the babies. Lila began to shrink into herself, as though the space around her was too large, too cold. She spent hours in the garden, her small hands touching the wilting flowers, her tears falling into the soil. But no one saw. No one asked why the garden, the one place when she once felt peace, was beginning to fade. No one noticed the shift in her, the quiet suffering that had become her constant companion. One evening, as Mara talked to the twin in their crib, she glanced out of the window and noticed that the flowers in the garden, those vibrant, beautiful, blooms that Lila had once nurtured with love had begun to wilt. And the day after that, it was as if the garden, the very place where Lila had poured all her love, was dying, slowly and surely, just like the little girl who tended it. But Mara didn't connect the dot. She didn't understand that the life that had once flourished around them was fading because of her own neglect. The connection between Lila and the world around her, the healing energy that had once flowed so freely, was now being suffocated. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of the neglect became too much for Lila to bear. One night, as she wandered the halls of the house, she found herself in front of the twin room. She had always loved them, always prayed for their health and safety. But now, standing at the doorway, she felt a deep, empty void in her heart. She could no longer feel the warmth of her mother's love. She couldn't even remember the last time Mara had looked at her with kindness. The silence in the house had become unbearable, and in that silence, Lila's heart began to crack. She walked outside to the garden, her hands trembling as she touched the dying flowers. The weight of the sorrow she had carried for so long felt as if it might crush her. As her fingers brushed the petals, they withered in her hands, turning to dust. Lila dropped to her knees, her heart breaking as she whispered into the wind, "Mama, please, see me, love me again." But no one heard. That night, the unthinkable happened. She was awakened by a cold, unnatural chill in the air. Her heart raced, and she hurried to the nursery, her feet pounding against the wooden floors. When she reached the cribs, she gasped in horror. The twins, once so full of life, were now still and cold. The little bodies lay lifeless, their skin pale and empty. Mara's scream echoed through the house, a sound filled with terror and grief. Elias rushed to her side, his face peeling when he saw the lifeless babies. He held them in his arms, but it was too late. The twin, the blessing they had longed for, were gone. In the silence that followed, Mara's heart broke into 1,000 pieces. Her mind was numb with the weight of what had just happened. But deep down, she knew it wasn't just coincidence. Lila had given them so much, her love, her light, her healing, and they had taken it for granted. They had neglected her, forgotten her, and now the consequences were too great to bear. The realization hit Mara like a thunderclap. She collapsed to the floor, her tears falling freely as she whispered to the empty room, "Lila, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you. I didn't love you like I should have." But there was no answer. Lila was gone, and the garden, the one place where her light had once flourished, was now a barren wasteland. Mara sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes swollen from crying. The twins, her love for children, were gone. The house was silent, too silent. The laughter that once filled the halls had vanished, leaving behind an emptiness she could not escape. Her heart was broken, but there was no one left to blame but herself. She had seen it, hadn't she? The signs, the change in Lila, the way her little heart had ached in the absence of Mara's love. A quiet retreat into herself, but Mara had been too consumed, too caught up in her own dreams of perfection, her own desires for the ideal family. She had neglected the one child who had been sent to heal them, to fill their lives with the blessings they had once thought impossible. And now, it was too late. As she looked at Lila, who sat silently in the corner of the room, her eyes filled with a sadness that cut deeper than anything Mara had ever known. The weight of her action settled on her like a heavy suffocating clock. Lila's once bright face was now etched with quiet sorrow, her spirit dimmed by the neglect she had endured. Her eyes, which had once shone with warmth, were now pools of pain, asking questions Mara could no longer answer. "I am sorry, Lila," Mara whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't see you. I didn't love you the way you deserve. I was blinded by my own desire. And now I hurt you. I hurt you more than anyone could ever know." Lila's small hand gently touched Mara's hands, her face softening as she looked at her with understanding. "I know, Mama," Lila said softly. "I know you didn't mean to hurt me." But the pain was still there. Mara's breath caught in her throat, as she gazed at the child she had once adored, the child she had failed. She had tried so hard to create the perfect life, the perfect family, but she had missed the most important part, the love that had been freely given without condition. "I'll do anything, Lila," Mara said, her voice pleading. "Anything to make things right. Please just tell me." Lila smiled faintly. The tenderness in her eyes never faltered. "You don't need to do anything, Mama. I forgive you." Her forgiveness was not enough to erase the damage that had been done. The twins, her perfect children, were gone. And though Mara had Lila, her only child now, the loss of the twin would forever haunt her. It had been the fulfillment of the dream she had held for so long, the dream she had finally achieved, and lost within the blink of an eye. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, Lila," Mara whispered, tears streaming down her eyes. "I wish I could go back to fix everything, to love you the way you deserve, but I can't. And now, I can't even give you the sibling we had prayed for." Mara couldn't sleep. She lay awake night after night, her mind consumed by the mistake she had made. She thought of the twin, their perfect faces, their tiny hands, and their sweet laughter. And she thought of Lila, who had been neglected, who had suffered in silence, and whose love she had taken for granted. Days passed and Mara worked to make amends. It wasn't easy. How could it be? The pain of losing the twin, and overwhelming guilt of what she had done to Lila, clung to her like a second skin. She began to spend hours talking with Lila, listening to her, apologizing with every word, with every tear. She started to find small ways to show Lila that she was loved, ways that had nothing to do with the perfect life she had once imagined. She held Lila more, kissed her forehead every night before bed, and took time to ask about her dreams, her thoughts, and joys. She began to treat every moment with Lila as a precious gift, a chance to make up for the love she had neglected to give in the past. But as time passed, Mara realized something else. Despite her best efforts, something could never be fixed. The dream of another child, the one she had so desperately wanted, was gone. Lila was her only child, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't change that. One evening, as Mara sat alone in the garden, she let her tears fall freely. The world was quiet, the sky fading into dusk, and the first time in months, Mara allowed herself to fully grieve the loss of the twin. "I feel Delilah," Mara whispered to the wind. "I feel them. I feel those all." The wind rustled softly around her, and for a moment, she could almost hear a voice, soft and comforting, like a whisper from the past. "You haven't failed, Mama." It was Lila's voice, gentle and full of understanding. "You have learned, you have changed, and you love me now. That's all that matters." Over time, Mara came to understand the true depth of the lessons she had learned. The world could not be perfect, and life would never be what she had imagined. But the love she had for Lila was the truest thing she had ever known. And in that love, she had finally found peace. Though Mara could never have another child, she had Lila, a precious healing child, the one who had given her the second chance she didn't deserve. In her, Mara saw the truest meaning of motherhood. It wasn't in the perfect family or the perfect children. It was in the love, the growth, and the forgiveness that came from the deepest places of the heart. As Mara looked at Lila, who sat beside her in the garden, a gentle smile crossed her face. She reached for her daughter's hand, squeezing it softly. "Thank you, Lila," Mara whispered, a voice full of gratitude and love. "You have saved me, and I'll spend the rest of my days showing you how much I love you." Lila looked up at her mother, a small hand in Mara's, her face glowing with a peace that only a child of prophecy could possess. "I know, Mama, I know." And for the first time in years, Mara felt a sense of peace settled in her heart. The road to redemption had been long, filled with tears, regret, and heartache, but in the end, it was enough. Lila had forgiven her, and in her forgiveness, Mara had found the healing she so desperately needed.